All right, so here it is. I thought Trey Elling had a great guest last night on his show, The Sport of Life, which is from 6 to 7 after Jeff and Ed every night. And he talked to a Georgia insider, who one of the better. We talked to Kaylee Mansell earlier this week, and she herself is outstanding. But we want to, we know what's going on in Texas. They're healthy. They should be. They're fresh. They're coming off of it. But Graham Coffey runs dogcentral.com, DAWG.
That's how they spell it down there.
DAWG. That's exactly right.
Dog.
And, he's covered the program a long time. He founded that website and that digital entity. And so Trey asked him, hey, man, earlier in the interview, they asked him about the defense, and he said it very much sounded like the Texas offense. It's like, what's been going on with this Georgia defense? Doesn't look the same. He said, well, they're young. Like he said in the Mississippi State game, they had 7 freshmen on the field, in important roles. Like their defense is kind of where, like if you put 4 guys into the NFL in one draft in the first round that were all on defense, your defense is going to take a step back, and it has. And they hadn't replaced them yet with experienced enough guys up front, right? That's what made what Georgia did so impressive. And this is why I've said the transfer portal has kind of evened out the equation where guys don't wait like they used to. I mean, when Georgia had that 2021, 2022 team, they had studs that were waiting their turn to come in. And so when those guys moved on to the NFL, mostly the Philadelphia Eagles, they had Jalen Walker in the wings. They had Mike Williams in the wings. They had, War Daddies ready to come in and Malachi Starks at safety.
Right.
Well, then those guys move on. And now this time it's more of an empty cupboard than it was because the portal. And, and Texas came in and is recruiting against them head-to-head in Georgia.
Yeah, you're in the SEC now. You want to go there.
They're younger than they've been. That's why Kirby's team really didn't miss a step defensively because they were so damn good. And last year was kind of a regress at some level, mostly because of the offense. Mm-hmm. As Carson Beck was not well-liked in their locker room, and then their receivers weren't very good. And so this offseason they went out and they added Zachariah Branch from USC, who's an absolute lightning rod.
Yeah, he's insane.
Lightning bolt. And then they got Colby Young came back.
Yep.
They added Noah Thomas from Texas A&M. So they have weapons on the outside to go with a big Georgia, as usual, offensive line, to go with Nate Frazier and the kid, the freshman, the really good running game. And then you had Gunnar Stockton. Now, who is Gunnar Stockton? And I know we're at SEC Media Days. The questions were, who is this guy? He's kind of, and Jerry Hamilton last hour made the comparison to Colt McCoy.
Wow.
Which is good. Small school
I like
kid
that.
At a big program who's led the program their whole life, always grew up wanting to be the Georgia quarterback, just like Colt did for Texas. And listen to Graham talking about the difference, and you'll hear him take a little shot at Carson Beck, because the question was, what has Gunnar Stockton brought to this locker room and to this offense?
Is it okay for me to say that he's not Carson Beck? Is that rude? I mean, I mean
No, that's not rude at all. That's totally allowed.
Georgia under Kirby built this great competitive culture, and I think they recruited a ton of talent, right? But like they also outworked most teams in the country from a practice standpoint, and they sort of had this culture, and I think that kind of slipped for them in 2024, and I think that slipped a lot at the skill positions offensively. And Gunnar, I mean, you guys saw it from a Texas perspective in that SEC championship game. Georgia was very much kind of rudderless in that game until he came in for Beck, and it sparked everything. And so, I mean, Kirby's been as candid enough as to say, really, for almost a calendar year now, the guys play harder for him. And that's true. And I think Gunnar, people sort of view him as like this simple Appalachian country boy from the North Georgia foothills. And he is that. He was asking for cattle for Christmas as a teenager, but he is actually quite talented in ways that I think are maybe a little underappreciated. So, his legs have really helped this offense in terms of staying out of negative plays. It's helped Georgia's design run game with the running backs by just having the threat of the quarterback run. And I think he's matured as a passer a lot. Early in the season, a little more of a one-read guy, and he starts to take off. Now he's sitting in the pocket. He's getting through his reads. He steps up, makes some plays off script. So he's gotten better and better. And I just think that there's kind of a tightness among the group this year that maybe wasn't there last year. And you can sort of see that come out in some of these close games they've won in the fourth quarter.
Sounds like a little bit of a Baker Mayfield effect to me, in terms of doesn't look the part but just shows up and plays football, and his guys play hard for him.
I mean, I think that's right. And, back in 2023, even when Brock Bowers was still here, I remember talking to a source in August before that season, and that individual was like, the two guys on this team who are here first, leave last, watch more film than anybody, take more extra reps than anybody, are Brock Bowers and Gunnar Stockton. And I think Gunnar earned the respect of his teammates long before he became a starter. And I remember with, when Stetson Bennett left, there was kind of conversations of like, oh, well, it feels like Carson's really trying hard now, like he's really working hard, and it's not a bad thing or anything like that. I just think Gunnar's consistency as a personality and as a worker really sort of has endeared him to both offense and defense.
All right, so there's some great insights from the Georgia side of this thing. Graham Coffey on with Trey Elling and his co-host last night. That was great stuff. Well done, Trey. Good get there, because that's good intel. I mean, that's, when the story becomes, hey, look, Carson Beck's finally starting to work a little bit here because this kid behind him who wants livestock for Christmas is outworking him. And guess who noticed that? The locker room.
Right.
And if Carson Beck is a phony, this is what we talk about with Mike Vrabel, you have to be a genuine, authentic leader if you want to lead. And they got to believe in you. And clearly last year the players didn't believe that Carson Beck was authentic. And he was phony. And he was getting Heisman hype and the first pick in the draft. And everybody in that locker room was like, he ain't first pick in the draft.
No.
This guy's a bum. Or he's just, they're young people, but he's not that good.
He just feels like very much a me guy, not a we guy.
And then, of course, and we've seen it at Miami now, where he's throwing receivers under the bus for his 4 interception
Another
game.
example of that.
I think there's probably a reason why Miami has got 2 losses now, even though they looked great early.
Right.
But those type of things, they fester. And if you don't just become an authentic non-me guy just because you showed up in Miami and they paid you $6 million or $4 million, whatever the number is.
Right.
So that's not even. So you're not playing Carson Beck, but Gunnar Stockton is somebody you got to beat. And when you say they're hard to kill, Kirby Smart says they're hard to kill. He's a big part of that culture.
Oh man,
and that's what Texas has to try to beat. And that's why this makes it so much fun, because I talked about to be the man, you got to beat the man. Texas has the arsenal to go do it. Heard Mac Brown talking about it, and there's an opportunity there. I wanted to hear from Vince Young too, because Vince Young was on that same podcast every week with Mac Brown and Bob Ballou, and Vince was talking about what that Vanderbilt performance, where they played really well, can do for Texas in this game, at least from his experience of playing in big games.
For me, 2 things. You got a team that has done it and beat you, for one. So it doesn't matter about what you see on film. Just understand the schemes and things that they're trying to do to you. But you still got to respect Georgia because of the fact they have done it over and over again for the last couple of years. So you have to put that in perspective, that the respect nature that you got to have for them. They got our number. So you got to look at it as that standpoint. Okay, what did we do last year what made them guys beat us? Okay, we didn't run the ball well. Okay, we got in the red zone and missed field goals and didn't score. You got to understand, do you remember that taste in your mouth when they beat us at home, when they beat us in the championship game? You got to understand and use that as motivation, that let me prepare and read, let me study in my preparation, let me build on the third down, let me understand why we lost that game last year, and then understand who we playing this year, that the message that both teams have is the reason why they are winning. So to me, on that aspect, for the Texas standpoint, they got to understand they're going into a hostile environment, and they got to understand that taste that they had to take last year that really hurted them in a way. But just remember that taste.
Remember the taste. And that's what Sark said this week, Ben. We've got to understand it could be any play. And missed field goal last year. And look, they lost the games last year mainly because, red zone inefficiency, and they lost the turnover battle, period. And when they did force turnovers of Georgia, they didn't take advantage of them.
Right.
Touchdowns. And that's, Arch Manning was not playing quarterback at the time, but he saw it all. I mean, they understand the taste of that game, that they let that game get away from them at the Georgia Dome and or Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and now they got to go to Athens, and they've got the arsenal to do it. But it's a tough team you're playing right there. They're not as tough as they've been. There's no Jalen Walker that you have to block, a top 10 pick, or Michael Thompson, who was picked by the 49ers in the top 15. You don't have to block those dudes this year.
Right, but we're saying that, and they're still number 5 in the country with 1 loss. BT Alabama.
Well,
you know what I mean?
No, 100%.
That's just the standard there.
But it's not as talented a team.
No. No, it's facts.
That's facts. You watch Trinidad Shambliss go up and down the field, and this is kind of the point of what Vince is making, and I think what we're talking about here. Go back and watch the Ole Miss game. Ole Miss is on one-loss team that's on their way to the playoff. Ole Miss scored touchdowns on their first 5 possessions. Touchdowns.
Led most of that game.
35 points on the board.
Right.
But Gunnar Stockton kept answering. Same thing he did against Tennessee when they fell behind. Gunnar Stockton's going to keep swinging. And then Kirby Smart's going to make adjustments, and they got to the fourth quarter, and they outscored them 17-0. And after 5 straight touchdowns, Ole Miss didn't score again.
Yeah.
That's what you have to beat. And that's the point. Texas has the arsenal to do it, but you got to do it for 4 quarters. Yeah, because that dude on the other side, that little cattle rustler, he's going to be swinging all day, and Kirby Smart's as good as they get as far as schemes and adjustments and all that comes. This is why this is such a heavyweight matchup, man. Sark with the play calling, Kirby trying to respond. You're this close, and after getting wallops pretty good in the first matchup, you almost had him, but you let him off the hook.